Jake was looking forward to fly across the Sahara Desert because he knew he had to in order to go to where he was going in Africa. Everything was going smoothly and the flight was even practically turbulence-free. He sat back and read a book, enjoying the flight. When the plane reached the Sahara Desert, he admired the view out of the window, which was beautiful. It was a dream come true for him, as he always was interested in deserts growing up. He wondered what would it be like actually down there walking around. Suddenly the plane made a certain jerk. Everyone got a start, but when the plane started flying as normal again, they relaxed again and enjoyed the flight until a few minutes later there was a huge explosion and the plane made a dive into the desert. Within what seemed like minutes but must have been only seconds, the plane crashed into the desert. There was another big explosion and sounds of the passengers screaming. The heat of the desert was exhausting and terrifying, and within a few days the water and food in the plane was gone. Jake and the rest of the passengers were losing hope of any help coming. People were dying from heat exhaustion and hunger now. He knew that you could go longer without food than water. Well, he thought so anyway. He was feeling confused, as so were the rest of the passengers. Everyone survived the crash, but now ironically they were all afraid they were going to lose their lives from hunger and heat exhaustion. "I have an idea how we can get food." Everyone looked at him, wondering what he was going to say, anxious as to know what glimpse of hope he could possibly provide by saying he had an idea how to get food. Then he spoke again. "There is a coffin on the plane. It is being brought over for a funeral." Everyone sighed in disgust, but within 30 minutes, the passengers gathered around the coffin, ready to start eating the corpse. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. Jerry was 8 years old when he was in class one day, as usual drawing his favourite types of cartoons. They always were horror cartoons. They were drawings of witches and monsters, even when it wasn't Halloween. He fit right in when it was Halloween, because the other kids were interested in the spooky stuff then. But he didn't forget the times they laughed at him. He promised himself he would have the last laugh. It was Halloween night 15 years later, and there was a school reunion. Jerry couldn't believe his luck, the school reunion falling on a Halloween night. Jerry was on his own most of the night during the party, apart from some classmates walking up to him and saying hi, probably feeling guilty for how they treated him in school. Everyone was enjoying themselves and were dressed in different Halloween costumes. He had to admit to himself he was rather pleased to be at a Halloween party because he was never asked to any party as a kid. When the party was over and they were outside of the school was when Jerry shot them, saying to himself, "You were laughing at my crayon drawings. Now I'll be laughing at your chalk outlines." The next morning, Jerry smiled, looking at the crime scene tape and chalk outlines of where he shot them dead. Thanks for watching the Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content. I'm safe here. They definitely wouldn't think to look for me here. I can't tell you where here is, because they might get to you, and thereby get to me. But you're part of me, so basically know where here is. You're in my head, so if you delve deep enough and focus intently, you can see where I am. But there's no need for such. I'm safe, and so you are too. They're dangerous, and our safety is my top concern. I can't let them get to us. I've seen what they're capable of, and it's not fun looking. The blood streamed down the sidewalk. The exit site of the bullet looked like a small creature had crawled out of his head. It was a gaping hole, his brown hair matted to what was left of his skull by the scarlet mess. His scrawny arms lay motionless at his side, covered in dirt accumulated on the walkway, blood seeping into his t-shirt. A stain like that definitely won't come out. A small crowd had gathered and looked on, in a mixture of awe and disgust. It was such a grotesque horror, committed on such a beautiful day. Rather warm for autumn, but nonetheless still an overall great day. Besides, for the man with his brain painting the sidewalk, it definitely wasn't a great day for him. The crowd spoke in low murmurs, no one able to make sense of the atrocious act committed in the city centre in broad daylight. Cars continued to drive by, each stopping briefly to try and catch a glimpse of the drama evidently unfolding on the sidewalk. The buildings enclosing the street on both sides seemed to blend into the background. There was no one to focus on but him. He must have known too much about them. This is what happens when you know too much. This is why you need to protect us. He was probably a father, computer technician, or something equally boring. And now look at him. The ambulance sirens caused everyone to divert their attention. Strange no police had shown up. I'm sure many a concerned civilian had called it in. Now only an ambulance. Curiosity killed the cat. This was my first encounter with their stronghold on the public. Crazy, huh? A fire in the building I lived in was another danger alert. The fire killed one of the guys I knew who stayed on the 3rd floor. He was a pretty cool guy. We'd played a few pickup games of basketball together at the community centre courts a few times. He too must have known too much about them. Incredible the lengths they'd go to get rid of him. Starting a fire in an apartment building where hundreds of people live. Strangely enough, he was the only death in the fire. The fire department issued a statement that the lit cigarette he fell asleep with was the cause of the fire. I was among the crowd outside the building, being tendered to by paramedics, when they wheeled his charred corpse out the smoking remnants of our communal home. His once white skin was now a very reddish pink in most parts. The rest of him was crispy black. Blood seeped out through the cracks in the now hardened skin and gave colour to the white sheet that did a poor job of concealing the abomination he had become. I may not be a smart man, but I know better to believe the nonsense story the fire department gave about the cause of the fire. It wasn't a cigarette, it was them. The crispy man had known too much, and they dealt with him. The embers of the fire glowed dimly in the darkness of the night. It was almost beautiful, the flashing lights of the fire truck and shouts and cries of the now homeless people faded into the background. They had struck again. My third and final encounter with their destructive power was by far the worst. It was the boot up my ass I needed to get us out to safety. It was all the confirmation I needed to know they posed a real threat to us. I didn't know the guy, but whoever he was, he didn't deserve to die the way he did. I was taking a walk through the park to clear my mind of all the negativity and stress I'd been inflicted with, when my thoughts were dragged instantly back to the park. I had stumbled and nearly tripped into almost dark park. I looked down annoyed to see what had caused my stumble. There in my path was the abdomen of a man. His abdomen was dressed impeccably, so it was fair to assume his grand night had come to an abrupt end. I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to do. My first thought was to locate the rest of his body. Leaving the abdomen donned in a tuxedo jacket, I walked slowly down the path, scanning left and right for parts of the man. Boy, did I find them. He had been completely ripped apart. Strewn on both sides of the path were his hands, the rest of his arms, his feet in what looked like expensive dress shoes, and the legs. The head, however, was nowhere to be found. Unperturbed, I continued my search. The path led me to the gate of a park, where my search proved fruitful. Mounted on the spikes above the gate was the stranger's head. They had no respect for the dead. How could they violate a man like this? All because he knew too much. Leaving the head on the gate, I left in a hurry. No point summoning the police. They would not get involved with these people. Now, do you see why I must do all I can to ensure our safety? These people know no bounds. They have no regard for the law or human life. All this debt because of the knowledge people had acquired. Knowledge is power, but in this case, it also grounds for debt. Unfortunately for us, I am knowledgeable. As I'm sure you can guess, we're next on the hit list. I won't tell you exactly what it is I know, so if they get to be first, they might spare you for your ignorance. You must be wondering why I fear for you, because as I said, you're part of me. You know what I know. But upon my death the bond might break, therefore you won't know it anymore, thus being spared. That however is worst case scenario, I would rather just keep us both alive. Do you hear that? The buzzing? I think they found me. We've been compromised. Sorry, old pal, this is the end of the road. The door is opening now. Oh God, how are they getting in? The door has no handles, so how? Oh God! The door opened, and the nurses walked into the padded room. He sat on the floor, rocking back and forth, shouting, straitjacket sitting tightly around him. Every time he was scheduled to get his medicine he did this, screaming and shouting about them and knowledge. Once sedated, the nurses put the clozapine in his mouth and gave him enough water to wash them down. They then checked to make sure he swallowed the medication. Anthony had been admitted into the psychiatric ward of St. Bernard's Hospital over 3 years ago. He was found wandering the streets covered in blood by police after an extensive manhunt was launched following the deaths of 3 unrelated individuals. Brutal deaths, all found to be carried out by Anthony. He was sent to trial and proven extremely mentally unstable, earning him a lifetime stay in the padded room. The mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Thanks for watching the Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content.
A black cat arrived at Brian's house one day in October. They named him Stray because he just strayed in off the street.
Brian initially liked the cat, but the more days went on, he found it very strange. Brian had been convinced that the black cat was his dead sister, who was killed in a fire a few days ago. His parents, no surprise, told him to stop letting his imagination run wild with him. There were different occurrences happened. First, he knew that his sister Susan hated him playing music loud, and one day when he had his radio loud, the black cat walked up and put it off. The next strange thing that happened was when he walked into her room, the black cat was sitting next to her diary, as if the cat was reading it. Brian was watching a movie on Halloween night, and they had candles around the room for decoration, with pumpkins, etc. Suddenly the cat went mad and jumped, knocking all the candles, which caused a fire in the room. Within seconds the room caught fire, and by the time the fire brigade came, the room was gutted. Nobody was injured, but Brian was wondering, was the cat Susan letting them know that she perished in the fire? His parents still didn't believe him, until something so horrifying happened that his parents went into shock while he rang the police. The black cat was standing in front of a girl, and the girl was Brian's dead sister. He thought he was seeing a ghost, until his sister spoke to him. "Brian, I am not your sister, nor I never was. Your parents kept me prisoner in this house for years without anyone knowing I was here. Did you not think it strange I was never allowed to leave my room? I know you're only 8, but come on, surely you found it strange." Brian's parents hadn't realised. He rang 911, and they jumped out of their shock when the police stormed the room. After a lot of talking with the police and investigating, it came out that my sister was in fact kept prisoner in my house since she was 3, and the girl whose body was found in my house was a girl whose mom was a witch who cast a spell on my parents to burn, but her spell didn't work until when they were being driven away in the police car, the car lost control and drove right into a wall, blowing up. I wondered why her mom didn't just call the police about her daughter until I had realised her mom had been dead for over 8 years. When she was walking her daughter one day, as a toddler going to pet a black cat, she ran across the street and a car would have hit her, only for her mom running out and pushing her out of the way, which killed her instead. Her other daughter was that girl's twin sister, Susan. Thanks for watching The Assassin Rapper, and if you enjoy the content, then make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of new content.